During my father's funeral, my uncles didn't notice that I was around. He doesn't even realize that we rewrote the will. It's all ours now, not that loser. They laughed right by the coffin. I clenched my teeth and remained silent. And in the morning, 26 missed calls from each of them. I never imagined I'd be writing something like this, but after what happened yesterday, I need to get it off my chest. I'm typing this on my phone while hiding out in the guest bathroom of my dad's house. Yeah, it's one of those mornings. My father passed away last week. He was only 64. Pancreatic cancer. 8 brutal months. He tried to fight, but cancer doesn't care about how strong you are or how many plans you had for retirement. It just takes. Dad and I had a complicated relationship. He wasn't the emotional, I'm proud of you type. More like, get up, stop whining, figure it out. But buried underneath all that tough love was a real sense of respect. He expected a lot from me because, at least I hope, he believed I could handle it. I like to think he saw me as someone who could carry the weight even when he never said it outright. We held his funeral yesterday. Just a small gathering at Ridge Hill Memorial. Closed casket. Dad made me promise that nobody would see him in the state he was in at the end. He called it undignified and said he didn't want anyone gawking at a corpse. His words, not mine. There were maybe 40 people there. Dad didn't have a massive circle, but the people who mattered showed up. After the service, I needed a minute alone. Honestly, I felt numb. After 8 months of slowly watching someone fade in front of you, your emotions get worn down to the bone. I wandered into one of those little side rooms in the funeral home, one of those soft-lit alcoves with big chairs and boxes of tissues. I sank into a chair in the corner and closed my eyes, just trying to breathe for a second. That's when I heard voices. The door connecting to the viewing room was slightly ajar. At first, I didn't pay attention, but then I heard my name. And the way he looked at me during the service, like I'm supposed to feel sorry for him or something, said my Uncle Rob. He's always been soft, replied Uncle Dale. I froze. They were talking about me. I should have made myself known. Should have stood up and let them know I was there. But there was something in their tone, something smug and cold, that made me go completely still. The idiot doesn't even know we changed the will, Rob said, practically chuckling. Everything's coming to us now. Not that disappointment, Dale added. I could feel my heartbeat in my teeth. They were standing next to my father's casket, laughing about how they'd stolen everything from me. My inheritance. My father's business. Our home. He really thinks he's getting the house, Rob said. Wait until Monday when the attorney reads the will. The look on his face? Worth it. Best move we ever made, Dale chimed in. We caught Charlie when he was doped up on that cocktail. Man would have signed anything by that point. My stomach dropped. My dad Charlie must have been completely out of it from the meds. And they used that window to manipulate him into signing a new will. A fake one. I gripped the armrests so tight my knuckles turned white. He couldn't even run a lemonade stand, Dale sneered. If we left the company to Lucas, it'd be bankrupt in a year. I wanted to scream. To punch something. But instead, I just sat there, hands trembling, listening as they ripped me apart and congratulated each other for it. Already told Elena she's done after next week, Rob continued. No point keeping Dad's charity projects on the payroll. Elena. She'd been Dad's housekeeper, caregiver, and let's be real, his closest companion for the past 15 years. She practically moved in during chemo to help him through the worst of it. They were already planning to fire her. Eventually, someone called for them and they left the room. I stayed where I was for another 20 minutes, trying to stop my hands from shaking. Trying to decide whether I was going to lose it right there in the funeral home or just fall apart quietly. But I kept hearing my dad's voice in my head. Never throw the first punch unless you already know how to end the fight. So I didn't react. I didn't confront them. I walked out of that room, accepted condolences, smiled at people I hadn't seen in years, and played my part like everything was fine. After everyone left, I drove straight to Dad's house. Technically my house, well, it should have been. Every part of that place is etched into my childhood, the worn kitchen tiles where he taught me to fry eggs, the dent in the hallway wall from the time I crashed into it with my skateboard, the garage where we tried and failed to restore that old Pontiac when I was 16. When I got there, I found Elena in the kitchen, her eyes red and puffy. She looked startled when she saw me. Oh, Lucas, she said quickly, wiping her face. I was just tidying up a little. I didn't think you'd come by tonight. I asked her if she was okay even though it was painfully clear she wasn't. She hesitated, then shook her head. Your uncle stopped by this morning. Before the funeral. Told me I should start looking for a new job. Said once the wills read on Monday, they'll be taking over and they won't need me. My hands curled into fists. They have no right, I muttered. It's okay, she said softly. Your father warned me this might happen. He told me they'd come for everything the moment he was gone. She tried to smile, but it didn't quite make it to her eyes. I just thought we'd have more time. We talked for a while. She made tea. I couldn't drink it. She told me how my uncles started showing up more once Dad got really sick. Always when I wasn't around. Always with papers. Always asking for privacy. Then she mentioned something that made me freeze. He kept talking about a safety deposit box. Said it was safer that way. That some things needed to be outside the house. I didn't sleep in my apartment that night. Couldn't. I crashed on the couch at Dad's place, flipping through old photo albums until 3 in the morning. This morning I woke up to 26 missed calls. All from Uncle Rob, Uncle Dale, their wives, their kids, even cousins I hadn't heard from in years. 40-something text messages. All of them asking where I was. Demanding I call back. I haven't answered. But something clearly happened. Something that has them scared. And for the first time since I sat in that chair at the funeral home and listened to them laugh at me, I felt something besides anger. I felt hope. Because whatever has them panicking might just be what I need to fight back. I ended up crashing on the couch at Dad's place that night. Couldn't face going back to my apartment, it felt too cold, too empty. There was comfort in being surrounded by the scent of his aftershave, the clutter of his books, the faded armchair he always fell asleep in while pretending to watch the game. I tried going through some photo albums to distract myself. It helped a little. Seeing him younger, stronger, smiling in that crooked way he always did. But I couldn't shake the conversation I'd overheard at the funeral. My uncles Ray and Neil laughing next to my dad's casket about how they tricked him out of everything. The way they dismissed me like I was nothing. Like I was weak. I must have fallen asleep around 3 a.m. because I woke up to my phone vibrating nonstop on the coffee table. The screen was lit up with missed calls and texts. 26 missed calls. 26. Ray. Neil. Their wives. Even a couple of cousins I hadn't talked to in years. And dozens of texts. Call us now. Urgent. You're being childish. I didn't reply. I didn't call back. I just sat there staring at the screen, heart pounding. Something had clearly happened. Something big. And for once, they weren't the ones in control. I needed help. Someone who wasn't emotionally tangled up in this. Someone who could think straight. So I texted my friend Jordan. We've known each other since middle school. Grew up on the same block. He's sharp, works in real estate law now, and while he isn't exactly a courtroom shark, he knows the system. And more importantly, he knows me. Jordan showed up a couple of hours later with 2 coffees and a look that said, "Okay, what's going on?" I told him everything. From the moment at the funeral home to what Elena told me about them firing her, to the mention of a safety deposit box. I didn't leave anything out. He just listened, occasionally typing notes into his phone, eyebrows furrowed in concentration. When I finally finished, the first thing he asked was, "Did your dad have a private nurse at the end?" It took me a second to recall. Yeah, her name was Amanda. Young, super sweet. Dad liked her. Said she didn't treat him like he was already dead. Do you still have her number? I did. I found it in my contacts and called her right there on speaker. Amanda sounded surprised to hear from me, but when I explained why I was calling, her voice changed. "I'm really sorry for your loss, Caleb," she said softly. "Your dad was one of the kindest patients I ever had." I thanked her, then asked if she remembered anything unusual about the visits from my uncles in the final weeks. There was a pause. Then she said they were around a lot, but only when you weren't here. And they were always insistent about having time alone with your father. Even when I told them he was heavily sedated, they'd ask me to leave the room. Jordan gave me a sharp look. Amanda continued, "There was one time I walked in to check his vitals and Ray was holding a pen in your dad's hand. It looked like he was helping him sign something. Neil and another guy were standing nearby, some guy I didn't recognize. I didn't think much of it at the time. I thought it was just some financial paperwork or whatever." She sounded uncomfortable, like she regretted not saying anything sooner. "Did you tell anyone?" I asked. "I mentioned it to Elena the next morning," she said. "She said she'd try to reach you, but then your dad had a really rough night and I guess it got lost in everything else." I hung up and stared at the wall for a while, trying to process it all. Jordan finally broke the silence. "You realize what this means, right? If what Amanda saw is accurate, your uncles may have coerced your dad into signing a fraudulent will. And if Elena's right about the safety deposit box, that could be where the original documents are." I nodded slowly. My mind was spinning. Right then, my phone started buzzing again. It was Ray. Jordan looked at me and said, "Answer it. Put it on speaker." Record the call. I hesitated, then picked up. Hello? Ray's voice was sharp, anxious. Caleb, where the hell have you been? We need to talk. In person. About what? Neil's voice chimed in. Apparently, I was on speaker on their end, too. There's been a complication with the will. It's delicate. We should present a united front before the lawyer gets involved. A united front. I almost laughed. What kind of complication? I asked, playing dumb. There was a pause. Ray answered carefully, some inconsistencies in the paperwork. We just think it's better for everyone if we get ahead of this. I let them squirm for a moment, then said, fine. Let's meet at Dad's house. Dead silence. Wouldn't it be more appropriate to meet at my place? Ray asked, clearly caught off guard. No, I said firmly. Dad's house. They reluctantly agreed. As soon as I hung up, Jordan grinned and held up his phone. Got the whole thing. They're nervous. We decided to take one last look through Dad's office before the meeting. I didn't know exactly what we were hoping to find, maybe a copy of the original will, maybe just a clue. Something. The room still smelled like him. Coffee, pine-scented soap, and the faint trace of motor oil. That's when I saw it, a small, black notebook tucked between two thick binders on the bookshelf. It was a Moleskine. Simple, worn, held closed with a rubber band. I opened it. It was his handwriting. Inside were entries from the past year. Pages and pages of notes, thoughts, observations, and most importantly, warnings. About Ray and Neil. About their sudden interest in helping with his finances. About documents they brought over, pressure they applied. Doubts he had. And near the back, dated just weeks before he got too sick to write, was this. Safety deposit box at First Commonwealth Bank. He with Elena. Make sure Caleb gets it. Trust no one else. I read the line over and over until the words blurred together. He knew. He knew what they were capable of, and he tried to protect me. Jordan placed a hand on my shoulder. We need to get that key. We went upstairs, where Elena had been quietly folding laundry. When I told her what we found, she didn't even blink. She disappeared into the guest room and came back a minute later with a small manila envelope. Inside, a brass key and a folded piece of paper with Dad's handwriting. Caleb, if you're reading this, it means they're already trying to take what isn't theirs. Do what you must. I trust you. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just closed my eyes and breathed. The bank was closed for the weekend, so we'd have to wait until Monday to find out what was inside the box. But something in my gut told me it would change everything. I barely slept Saturday night, even after finding Dad's journal, even after reading his clear warning about the safety deposit box. I was still lying awake in my old childhood bedroom, staring up at the ceiling fan, listening to that familiar clicking sound it made every few rotations. It used to annoy the hell out of me as a kid. Now it was oddly comforting, like the house was still alive in some way. Sunday morning came fast. I got up early, made some weak coffee in that ancient drip machine Dad refused to replace, and tried not to think about what might be inside that deposit box. I was jittery as hell, but at least I wasn't alone. Jordan showed up around 9 a.m. with breakfast sandwiches and a file folder tucked under his arm. We've got another ally, he said, sliding the folder across the kitchen table. It was from Frank Dorsey, one of Dad's old business partners, someone I hadn't seen in years. Apparently, Jordan had reached out to him last night just to see what he knew about Ray and Neil. Turns out, Frank had kept records. A lot of them. I flipped through the folder. Emails, memos, even board meeting notes where my uncles had tried to override Dad's decisions behind his back. Nothing criminal exactly, but sleazy as hell. The kind of thing that paints a clear picture of their long game. Slowly undermining Dad's leadership, positioning themselves to take over the company the second he got too sick to fight back. They've been trying to push him out for years, Jordan said quietly. This isn't just about greed. This is personal. And it clicked. They weren't just after the company. They were after him. This had been brewing since the day Grandpa handed the business to my dad instead of splitting it with his brothers. That bitterness had just been festering for decades. And now they saw me as the final obstacle. Around noon, my phone buzzed again. A new voicemail from Ray. Caleb, he barked. We really need to talk before the will is read. There are complications you don't understand. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. It was the fifth voicemail like that in 2 days. Jordan gave me a look. Let them come to you. So I did. I called Ray back and told him I'd be at Dad's house at 4 p.m. if they wanted to talk. You sure you don't want to come to my place instead? He asked again, voice tight. No, I said. Here. And then I hung up. We spent the next few hours getting ready. Not in a dramatic way, more like focused. Jordan set up his phone to record audio from the kitchen, where he planned to wait quietly. I straightened up the living room, not because it mattered, but because I needed something to do with my hands. At 4:07, the doorbell rang. Ray and Neil stood on the porch, looking like they hadn't slept in days. Their usual smug confidence was gone. Ray wore a forced smile. Neil couldn't even make eye contact. Come in, I said simply. They stepped inside and immediately took stock of the room. Their eyes landed on Elena, who was wiping down the dining table. Neil's lips tightened. I thought this was a private conversation, he muttered. She's not going anywhere, I replied. Ray forced a laugh. Fine, let's sit. We all settled into the living room, and for a moment, no one spoke. Just the ticking of the old wall clock above the fireplace. Finally, Ray broke the silence. Look, Caleb, we understand this situation has been difficult for everyone. Emotions are high. We just want to avoid unnecessary tension tomorrow. Unnecessary tension, I repeated slowly. You mean when the lawyer reads the will? Neil jumped in. We just think it's best that you hear things from us first, so you're not caught off guard. Caught off guard how? I asked, keeping my voice calm. Ray cleared his throat. Your father made some changes. Late in the process. It was his decision. And what changes were those? There was a beat of hesitation. He gave us controlling interest in the company, Neil said bluntly. You still get a generous portion, but operational control is with us. My hands were folded tightly in my lap. And when exactly did he make those changes? Ray shifted uncomfortably. About 3 weeks before he passed. He was still lucid. Knew what he was doing. I nodded just once. And why are you so worried about my reaction if it was all above board? They looked at each other. That look said more than any words could. They were bluffing and I knew it. But I wasn't about to show my hand. Instead, I leaned back and said, Okay, thanks for the heads up. I'll wait to hear it from the lawyer. They weren't expecting that. Ray tried to press on, saying something about family unity and respecting my dad's wishes, but I stood up. Meeting's over, I said, motioning toward the door. They left reluctantly, throwing a few more half-baked reassurances over their shoulders on the way out. As soon as the door closed behind them, Jordan came out of the kitchen, phone in hand. Got the whole thing, he said, grinning. They're terrified. You handled that perfectly. I didn't smile. Not yet. I was still shaking a little. Elena, I called. Do you have the key? She nodded and disappeared upstairs. A few minutes later, she came back down with a small envelope. Inside was a brass key and a short note in my dad's unmistakable handwriting. Caleb, if they're already circling, then it's time. Use the key. Trust yourself. We left for the bank that evening, hoping maybe, just maybe, we could talk our way into the safety deposit box a day early. No luck. They were closed until Monday morning. That night, I barely touched my dinner. I sat in Dad's chair, staring out the front window, thinking about everything he must have gone through in his final months. The loneliness. The fear. The determination to protect me even when he could barely sit up straight. Whatever was in that deposit box, I knew one thing for sure. It was our last conversation. One final act of trust. And I was ready. Monday morning came too slow and all at once. I was already at First Commonwealth Bank by 8:45, even though they didn't open until 9. Jordan showed up a few minutes later with his travel mug of coffee and that calm energy he somehow always manages to hold onto even when things are falling apart. I didn't sleep, I said. Didn't think you would, he replied, handing me a second cup. Let's just get through this. At 9:01 sharp, a manager led us into the private viewing room. I handed over the key and my ID, heart hammering like I was defusing a bomb instead of opening a box. Inside the safety deposit box, we found 3 things. A USB flash drive, a sealed envelope addressed to William Chan, attorney, and a plain white letter with just one word on the front, Caleb. I opened the letter first. My hands were shaking, but I took a breath and unfolded it slowly. Caleb, if you're reading this, it means I was right to be worried. And I'm sorry. I didn't want you to deal with this while grieving. But I also knew your uncles. They've waited for this moment for years. I did what I could to protect you. The USB contains security camera footage I installed after my diagnosis. Not because I didn't trust you, because I didn't trust them. The envelope is for Bill Chan. He'll know what to do. The will I signed 6 months ago is real. It reflects my true wishes. Let them fight if they want. Just remember, the truth is on your side. You've got this. Dad. I read it twice. Then a third time. And then I cried for the first time since he died. Not out of sadness. Out of sheer, overwhelming gratitude. Because even in his final days, my dad was still trying to protect me. We took the flash drive and envelope and went straight to Jordan's apartment. His setup was better, 2 monitors, a quieter space. We plugged in the USB. Dad wasn't kidding. There were hundreds of short clips, neatly time-stamped. Security camera footage from inside his home, discrete angles, office, living room, even his bedroom. We clicked through until we found the week my uncles claimed they got him to sign the updated will. There it was. Neil standing at the door like a lookout. Ray sitting by Dad's bed, holding his wrist and guiding the pen in his hand. Dad looked half-conscious, eyes barely open, head tilted to the side like he didn't even know what day it was. Some stranger, probably their witness, stood nearby, looking awkward and unsure. That, Jordan said, pausing the video, is not consent. And that was just one clip. There were others, Ray sneaking into the office at night, rifling through drawers. Neil whispering to him in the hallway, saying things like, he won't even remember we were here tomorrow. By the time we finished, my stomach was in knots. It was all there. Crystal clear. We printed stills. Labeled timestamps. Jordan compiled a drive for Bill Chan, Dad's longtime lawyer. Then we headed straight to his office. The reading of the will was scheduled for noon. I wanted to be early. When we arrived, Bill greeted us like he'd been expecting us for days. He took the envelope without blinking, scanned the letter, and nodded slowly. I was hoping this would turn up, he said. Your father and I discussed contingencies. He asked us to wait in the conference room while he reviewed everything. I sat there clutching my dad's letter like it was armor. At 11:58, my uncles arrived with their wives, adult kids, and a whole air of we run this now. I didn't say a word. Elena was there too, sitting beside me with a calm, steady expression. I could tell Neil didn't like that. Ray smirked and said, surprised to see you here, Caleb. I didn't answer. At exactly noon, Bill entered with a stack of papers and a laptop. Before we begin, he said, there appears to be a matter of conflicting documents. Ray's eyes lit up. Neil leaned forward. Yes, exactly. That's what we were saying. The version he signed 3 weeks before he died. Bill held up a hand. I'll be presenting video evidence first. They froze. Then he hit play. There was Dad, sitting upright in this very office. 6 months ago. Clear-eyed. Calm. Speaking directly into the camera. I, Charles Brennan, being of sound mind and judgment, declare this to be my final will and testament. Any document dated after this that appears to contradict these wishes should be investigated for fraud or coercion. He went on to detail his wishes. 60% of the company and the house to me. A retirement trust and full residency rights for Elena. A scholarship fund set up for Amanda, his nurse. 10% shares each to Ray and Neil, but only if they did not contest the will. And a clause, if they challenged it, their entire inheritance would be donated to a cancer foundation. The room was dead silent. Then Bill opened the folder with stills from the security footage. Ray went pale. Neil dropped his pen. I didn't say a word. Bill calmly stated he would be submitting everything to the court should they choose to dispute the will, but warned them of the penalty clause. Neil muttered, this is a setup. Ray stood up, red in the face. This is manipulation. He wasn't thinking clearly. That video, was recorded 6 months ago, notarized and filed under witness supervision, Bill said sharply. You may pursue legal action. But as per Mr. Brennan's instructions, you'll forfeit your inheritance. Their wives started whispering furiously. One of my cousins looked like she was about to cry. Ray slammed his chair back and stormed out. Neil followed, not saying another word. Just like that, it was over. After they left, Bill turned to me and smiled. He was proud of you, Caleb. He told me once, my son's got more integrity in his little finger than my brothers have between them. I nodded, too choked up to speak. It's been 2 weeks since that meeting. I'm still adjusting. The house is quiet. The company, well, it's going to take time. Some people were loyal to my uncles. Others were just waiting to see who ended up in charge. I've had meetings every day, slowly earning trust. Elena moved into the guest house. We've been going through Dad's things together. She cried the other night while packing up his suits, and I sat beside her on the floor, holding an old photo of the two of them at a company Christmas party. He was laughing in it, big and unguarded. I barely recognized that version of him. But I'm glad she knew him that way. As for Ray and Neil? Radio silence. A few texts from their wives pretending to check in but really just fishing for information. I'm not sure what comes next. Part of me wants to clean house, remove every trace of their influence. But I keep hearing my dad's voice, be fair. But don't be soft. So I'm trying to walk that line. This morning I sat at his old desk for the first time. Opened his drawer, saw the little note he taped to the inside years ago. A quote. Character is what you do when no one is watching. I think he knew I'd see it someday. And I think he'd be okay with how I handled things. I didn't throw the first punch. But I ended the fight.